Welcome to the Godly Insights channel. In this video, we will take an in-depth look at Genesis 4 from the New King James Bible, exploring the story of Cain and Abel, the consequences of sin, and God's continued mercy and judgment. Let's delve into the key themes and lessons from this chapter. Verse 1 and 2 reads, "Now Adam knew Eve his wife, and she conceived and bore Cain, and said, I have acquired a man from the Lord. Then she bore again, this time his brother Abel. Now Abel was a keeper of sheep, but Cain was a tiller of the ground." Here we see that Adam and Eve conceive their first two sons. Cain, the firstborn, is a tiller of the ground, while Abel is a keeper of sheep. The contrast in their professions sets up the foundation for the events that follow. This also highlights how humanity is developing roles in the world post-Eden. As we continue with verses 3 through 5, it says, "And in the process of time, it came to pass that Cain brought an offering of the fruit of the ground to the Lord. Abel also brought of the firstborn of his flock and of their fat. And the Lord respected Abel and his offering, but he did not respect Cain and his offering. And Cain was very angry, and his countenance fell." As we read these verses, Cain and Abel both bring offerings to the Lord. Cain brings fruit from the ground, while Abel brings the firstborn of his flock with their fat portions. God accepts Abel's offering, but rejects Cain's. The key difference appears to be the heart behind the offering. Abel's sacrifice is given in faith and with the best he has, while Cain's lacks sincerity or obedience to God's will. This passage foreshadows the theme of acceptable worship and obedience to God. If we segue into Genesis 4, verses 6 through 7, here we see God's warning to Cain. "So the Lord said to Cain, Why are you angry, and why is your countenance fallen? If you do well, will you not be accepted? And if you do not do well, sin lies at the door, and its desire is for you, but you should rule over it." God speaks directly to Cain, warning him that sin is crouching at the door, eager to control him, but he must rule over it. This demonstrates God's mercy, offering Cain a chance to do right. It also introduces the concept of sin as a lurking force that desires to dominate but can be overcome through righteousness. In Genesis chapter 4, verse 8, we encounter the first murder. Verse 8 says, "Now Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass, when they were in the field, that Cain rose up against Abel his brother, and killed him." Cain, in jealousy and anger, kills Abel in the field. This is the first recorded murder in the Bible, a direct consequence of sin entering the world. Cain's act reveals unchecked sin leading to destruction. God asks Cain, "Where is Abel your brother?" Cain responds with the infamous phrase, "Am I my brother's keeper?" And he said, "What have you done? The voice of your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground. So now you are cursed from the earth, which has opened its mouth to receive your brother's blood from your hand. When you till the ground, it shall no longer yield its strength to you. A fugitive and a vagabond, you shall be on the earth." God condemns Cain's actions, cursing him to be a wanderer and cutting him off from successful farming. The phrase, "your brother's blood cries out to me from the ground," signifies divine justice and foreshadows future biblical themes about the sanctity of life and divine retribution. As we continue with the study, we see in Genesis chapter 4, verses 13 through 16, Cain's punishment and mercy. And Cain said to the Lord, "My punishment is greater than I can bear. Surely you have driven me out this day from the face of the ground. I shall be hidden from your face. I shall be a fugitive and a vagabond on the earth. And it will happen that anyone who finds me will kill me." And the Lord said to him, "Therefore, whoever kills Cain, vengeance shall be taken on him sevenfold." And the Lord set a mark on Cain, lest anyone finding him should kill him. Then Cain went out from the presence of the Lord and dwelt in the land of Nod, on the east of Eden. Cain laments his punishment, fearing that others will kill him. Instead of executing Cain, God places a protective mark on him, demonstrating both justice and mercy. God's mark symbolizes divine protection, emphasizing that even in judgment, God offers grace. Cain's response lacks repentance. He shows remorse for the consequences, but not for his sin. Let's continue with Genesis chapter 4, verses 17 to 24, the line of Cain and civilization. And Cain knew his wife, and she conceived and bore Enoch. And he built a city and called the name of the city after the name of his son Enoch. To Enoch was born Irad, and Irad begot Mehujael, and Mehujael begot Methushael, and Methushael begot Lamech. Then Lamech took for himself 2 wives. The name of one was Adah, and the name of the second was Zillah. And Adah bore Jabal. He was the father of those who dwell in tents and have livestock. His brother's name was Jubal. He was the father of all those who play the harp and flute. And as for Zillah, she also bore Tubal-Cain, an instructor of every craftsman in bronze and iron. And the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. Then Lamech said to his wives, "Adah and Zillah, hear my voice. Wives of Lamech, listen to my speech. For I have killed a man for wounding me, even a young man for hurting me. If Cain shall be avenged 7-fold, then Lamech 77-fold. Cain builds a city and has descendants who advance civilization through farming, music, and metalwork. However, sin continues to grow, as seen in Lamech's boast of killing a man and seeking greater vengeance than Cain's punishment. This passage shows human progress alongside increasing sinfulness. Lamech's arrogance contrasts with the humility God desires, demonstrating how sin can corrupt entire generations. Genesis chapter 4, verses 25 to 26, the birth of Seth and the call to worship. And Adam knew his wife again, and she bore a son and named him Seth. For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. And as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. Adam and Eve have another son, Seth, whose line remains faithful to God. The chapter ends with, "Then men began to call on the name of the Lord." Seth's birth represents hope and restoration. This verse signals the beginning of corporate worship and a distinction between the righteous and the wicked. The heart of worship matters. God desires sincere and obedient worship, not just outward offerings. Sin must be mastered. Sin seeks to control us, but we have the choice to resist it through faith and obedience. Jealousy and anger lead to destruction. Unchecked anger results in severe consequences, emphasizing the need for self-control and repentance. God is both just and merciful. Even in judgment, God provides grace, as seen in his mark of protection on Cain. Human civilization progresses, but sin remains. Despite advancements, sin continues to spread, highlighting humanity's need for redemption. A call to worship. Seth's line shows the importance of calling upon the Lord, leading to a legacy of faithfulness. Genesis chapter 4 presents a powerful lesson about sin, justice, and mercy. Cain's failure to heed God's warning results in tragic consequences. Yet God still provides grace. As we reflect on this passage, let us examine our hearts, strive for righteousness, and always seek the Lord's will in our lives. If you enjoyed this analysis, be sure to like, subscribe, and share for more biblical insights from the Godly Insights channel. God bless, and stay tuned for the next chapter coming out soon.